So today, this morning, Joe went into the attic at our house, and Ruby was afraid of the ladder, and she ran to me for protection and cowered on my lap and hid her head under my arm. And she's even now at work with the ladder far away across town. She's still quite clinging to me.
Happens.
It's hard. I would be terrified if a giant ladder to the heavens opened up and someone was clanging around up there.
Were you a small dog in this dream?
This is the dream of my waking life.
Welcome back to People's Guide to Publishing. I am your host, Joe Beal, author of A People's Guide to Publishing the book, founder and CEO of Microcosm.
I'm Ellie Blue. I'm the editorial and marketing director of Microcosm and caretaker of small nervous dogs.
Most of the past week for me has been spent having extensive contract conversations with new authors that we've been acquiring, which I realize takes up really a lot of my time.
And it's like one of the most important things that you could possibly be doing with it.
Right, because that's what makes books exist in the future.
And most of my week has been taken up with editing the product descriptions for many of our 11,000 SKUs.
SEO, baby.
SEO. And, just representing the books well.
And good copy.
And it's so satisfying when someone buys one. That's like the best feeling.
Copy that. So this week we had another reader question from our intern, Margot, about word count.
Oh yeah. Margot asked, how do we know what word count we should go for with a book or a zine? And what is the art and science behind figuring that out? And it is an art and a science.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is an art and a science.
We have a target word count in our contracts.
Yeah. But how do we arrive at that?
Using the powers of math. All praise math.
You see, dear reader, everything in publishing is about math.
Can you get
Second most controversial statement ever.
Can you, unless you want to tell us the most controversial statement ever, which I would love to hear.
That was on a previous podcast. You'll have to watch every episode to find it.
Will there be a prize at the end? One copy of Scam.
Yes.
Let us know if you find it.
Send in the answer and we'll send you a prize.
So what is the math equation for figuring out the word count for a book?
Well, dear reader, it can be tempting to put 1,000 words on every page of your book and have a 12 by 18 inch size page or something to really maximize your words per page and words per book. Do not do it.
Don't do it.
You want to have a pleasant reading, pleasant feeling page.
Unless you're writing the Bible.
Even if you are reading the Bible, it's going to be so much easier to read something that dense if the page is not also that dense.
But then how will people know that it's the Bible if it's not densely packed with tiny text?
Yeah, probably the cover. Put a cover on your book also. Pro tip. Most sources will tell you that 500 words is the average per page. So if you're making a zine and you want your zine to be, let's say 30 pages, you would assume 15,000 words is a good count. Because you'll have some front matter, some back matter, things like that. And, that's a good hard science. Similarly, if you have a book with 1 billion illustrations, we have a bunch like that, that is, lands you in a similar territory because that cuts down your words per page. So I normally say 15 to 25,000 words if we're aiming for a 128 page book that has an illustration or two on every page. And that's about the right math.
What if it's like a novel for adults?
Getting a little bit into the brain science, if you want to make it look sophisticated, sometimes the way to do that is to put more words on the page while making, so you need to use a sophisticated font, but you can use one
Comic Sans.
Different kind of sophisticated. So you could really get up to 800 words on a page, but at that point it starts to feel, the pages feel cramped. And so you've probably seen in a book where you have space between lines, space between characters. That is called leading and kerning. And that essentially determines how many words fit on a page, as also does the trim size of your page. When you have a longer book, people tend to make it a little more crowded. Sometimes you'll have multiple editions of a book where you'll have one that's a little bit of a easy read every page, and you'll have another that's like a mass market where every page is a little more crowded to make it, lower cost to print and for the consumer, lower cover price. Generally, as a rule, most of our books land around 60,000 words. But honestly, the trick is that less is more. When you're working with fewer words, you often get more out of it, and you don't have the fluff and the filler. So if I had my perfect world, we would end up with most of our books around 40,000 words between you and me.
I think I, too, am a fan of shorter books rather than longer.
It's not even shorter books. It's just get to the point. Tell us what we need to know.
I mean, we should talk about age range.
When you go younger, you put fewer words on the page. You make your type larger, you put more spaces between the lines, so... And you could take this to an absurd degree where you have these child read-along books, which is sort of the beginning of a child's reading. You'll have maybe 100 to 200 words on a page, even, that few. Because it's not about economizing paper, it's about helping people along that are, just not very experienced yet with the craft of reading. And then as you get up, into a YA, you would maybe have 400 words per page instead of 500. Illusion of moving you along gradually rather than having these abrupt shifts. And so this is part of the fascinating brain science of it is people will communicate the reading level by visually the typesetting.
Yeah, that was one of the coolest thing I learned at Winter Institute this year, I think, was a librarian taught me to literally go down the aisle of sample books and not look at the cover, not read any of the text, but just look at the typesetting and be able to tell whether it was middle reader, young adult, or adult. And that was cool. Mm-hmm. Superpower to pick up. You already knew it.
It's a good, yeah. I mean, it's a skill.
Mm-hmm. How many words you have in the book does sort of depend on your production values and your price point.
Authors will often ask us, how many pages should my book be?
And we're in Microsoft Word.
yeah, and right.
doesn't translate.
Depends if you're writing on a scroll or,
yeah.
So
one page.
If you assume 500 words per page, and the contract should dictate the word count, not the page count.
And then that's why we do that in the contract too, because we have definitely had it before where we ask for 40,000 words and we get 100,000 words. And that actually makes it a completely different book that isn't necessarily something we're able to market. So,
and it happens a lot, where people write 20 to 100% more than we asked for. And so you might have noticed this a lot, where at the last minute our books will increase in length and cover price because, a lot of times we will cut heavily, but, sometimes their end result does make the book better.
And sometimes not. Sometimes, you want the book to be the best book
it can be.
Oh, you took the words literally right out of my mouth.
We shared those words.
It was nice to share those words with you.
Mm-hmm.
We did have a book recently where the author came in under word count. And that wasn't so bad, but we did come up with an idea for a way to add more content that wasn't just fluff, which I think will work out. But if it doesn't work out, I think we'll just make it a shorter book, right?
Which is great, yeah.
Yeah, and lower price point, more delicious to buy.
And you can make a nice padding in the text. Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub.
On Twitter at Microcosm.
On Facebook at Microcosm Publishing.
On Instagram at Microcosm_pub.
And here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.